Transphobe or Ally Goodwill Hunting Edition. Spoilers. Sean, now he does make a sex change joke in the movie, but to me it doesn't seem like he has malice towards trans people. What I'm curious about is how he would be as a therapist if he had a trans client. That's why I'm excited to announce, for the first time ever on Transphobe or Ally, we have a special guest. And licensed professional counselor Alexander from Arrive Therapy. Alexander, what do you think? What are some signs that a therapist might be supportive of their trans client?
Hello everyone, I am Alexander. I am an LGBTQ therapist, the owner of Arrive Therapy, which is an all LGBTQ counseling practice, a licensed professional counselor. And I'm here to talk to you today about how to find a good therapist if you're trans. So the first thing I would tell you not to do is don't go to your insurance panel and look for a therapist that has clicked off LGBTQ specialty. The vast majority of times, those folks who are registering for those panels are just clicking on as many things as they can to kind of like get as many referrals as possible. Vast majority of times, those folks don't know anything about trans folks. They are not well equipped to be working with you. So I'd say that talk to a person. You want to ideally find somebody that has been working with a friend of yours, someone else that you know is trans, that really is within the network of the LGBTQ community that where you live locally. Second thing is like talk with them, vet them ahead of time, ask them like how many trans clients have they worked with, ask them some kind of general things about trans folks and see if they kind of know anything. You also want to kind of see if they feel comfortable, like listen to the language that they use. Do they use outdated language? They kind of stumble over their words. Do they seem generally kind of anxious? That's going to mean that they haven't really done a whole lot of work with trans people. You want to be careful. And that's one of the reasons that Arrive Therapy exists. We're all LGBTQ. A lot of us are trans therapists ourselves. This is what we spend our lives doing. We spend our lives really supporting people around their gender journeys, knowing what's going on within our community and the complexities of the intersection between mental health, gender dysphoria, and a person's trans journey. The main thing I want to really encourage you is to don't assume that the person knows a lot. Don't assume that the person is going to be affirming, supportive therapist. Many therapists may want to be, but they don't know anything and they haven't taken the time to educate themselves. I so often hear from people that went to a therapist and that person said X and Y thing. It really impacted their therapeutic journey. And then they kind of had to start over and find a therapist who was more educated and more trained. Get on all that stuff and look us up at arrivetherapy.com. This is what we do. This is what we're here for. And we look forward to talking with you.
Thanks, Alexander. I highly recommend you follow him on Instagram and TikTok, as well as subscribing to his YouTube channel. But given Alexander's response, I think Sean may not be an expert on trans issues. Given what Sean says in the film about wanting to know his client, that he can't learn it from a book, I feel like at the very least, if you told him you were trans, he would do the research, and then, whatever the case be, he will say, I'm here to support you no matter what. So I think overall he'd be an ally, but he wouldn't be a good first choice in therapist for a trans client. Up next is Skylar. She's a bit elitist, but makes an effort to be an ally. Chucky and the rest of the brothers make misogynistic and ableist jokes, but would probably be accepting if you came out. Chucky would probably tell you to get on with your transition if you were feeling nervous about it, because he knows it's what's best for you. Professor Lambro, I've met his type. Transphobe. And finally, Will. He would clock you, but if it were just the two of you alone, he'd be like, I got no problem with trans people. Do I see him as fighting transphobia? But he certainly wouldn't be transphobic.